Look, for most of us, a cup of coffee is just that morning pick-me-up, right? It's that comforting little ritual to shake off the sleep and get the day going. But when you step into the realm of elite athletics and human performance, it is just so much more than that. Caffeine is actually the most heavily researched, widely consumed, and arguably the single most effective legal performance enhancer in the entire sporting world. So today, in this explainer, we're going to unpack exactly how it works. We're going to strip away the old myths, dig into the hard data from the International Society of Sports Nutrition, and uncover how caffeine fundamentally hacks human fatigue.
Okay, let's kick things off with a pretty fundamental question. When you slam that pre-workout drink or grab a double espresso before a big race or a heavy lift, what is actually happening? Does caffeine magically give your muscles more physical fuel to burn, or is it simply playing a really sophisticated trick on your brain?
Well, to answer that, we first have to look at the sheer unfiltered power of human belief. There are these absolutely fascinating studies where researchers gave well-trained athletes a placebo. We're talking a pill with literally zero caffeine in it. But they told these athletes they were getting a massive dose of the stimulant. And the result? The athlete's performance actually improved in a linear fashion, directly tying to how much caffeine they believed they had just taken. It beautifully proves that the brain's expectations are incredibly powerful. But of course, caffeine isn't just a placebo. It has profound, measurable physiological effects.
Section 1. Mechanics. We're talking about hacking the central nervous system.
Okay, so let's get into the actual physical mechanics of what goes down when this compound hits your bloodstream. Over the last couple of decades, the scientific consensus has totally shifted. They moved their focus away from what's happening down in your muscles and zoomed right into the architecture of your brain. For the longest time, the old theory was all about metabolism, right? Scientists thought caffeine caused this big adrenaline spike, which forced your body to burn fat for fuel, thereby saving up your precious muscle glycogen for later. Sounds awesome, but yeah, it was proven completely wrong. The proven science, the real mechanism driving that performance boost, shows that caffeine acts primarily on your central nervous system. Structurally speaking, caffeine looks a whole lot like a molecule in your brain called adenosine. Adenosine builds up as you burn energy, basically telling your brain, hey, we're getting tired. Well, caffeine acts as an adenosine receptor antagonist. It basically sneaks in, steals those parking spots, blocks the receptors, and completely prevents your brain from receiving that fatigue signal. Think of caffeine as a literal volume knob for your brain. Because it blocks those fatigue signals and triggers a rush of neurotransmitters like dopamine, it acts exactly like turning down a dial on your brain's perception of pain. In sports science, this is known as lowering your rate of perceived exertion, or RPE. You are still working just as hard, you're lifting the exact same weight, running just as fast, but the illusion of effort is totally altered. The exercise just flat out feels easier. It allows you to push right past your normal physical boundaries because that central governor in your brain has essentially been put on mute.
Moving on to Section 2, Mutants, and the Genetic Caffeine Lottery.
Seriously? Have you ever wondered why your gym buddy can chug a massive energy drink and have the greatest training session of their life, while the exact same drink turns you into a jittery, anxious mess? Well, it turns out how you respond is almost entirely determined by your DNA. It's all about the CYP1A2 gene, which dictates how fast your liver actually metabolizes caffeine. If you won the genetic lottery and have the AA genotype, congratulations, you're a fast metabolizer. In a massive 10-kilometer cycling study, these fast metabolizers saw a huge 6.8% endurance boost from caffeine. But check out the C allele group, the slow metabolizers. For them, caffeine lingered way too long in their system and actually impaired their performance by a staggering 13.7%. And for those with the AC mixed genotype, it essentially did nothing at all. So if you're a slow metabolizer, that pre-race cup of coffee might literally be costing you the win. No way around it.
But wait, it actually doesn't stop with just metabolism. Let's introduce a second crucial gene, ADOR2A. This gene governs those actual adenosine receptors we just talked about. People who possess the TT variant of this gene are highly sensitive to the stimulating effects of caffeine. And while that might sound like a superpower, it actually means they're way more prone to experiencing performance-killing anxiety, the jitters, and severe sleep disruption. If you've ever felt completely overwhelmed or mildly panicked during a competition after having an energy drink, yeah, your ADOR2A gene variant is probably the culprit.
All right, Section 3, Mastery, Cognition under Extreme Stress.
Taking this way beyond a simple 10K run or a gym session, caffeine's ability to hack the central nervous system makes it an incredibly potent tool for cognitive mastery, especially under intense life-or-death stress. This is exactly why the military pours so much time and money into studying it. In these wild studies involving U.S. Navy SEAL trainees and Special Forces soldiers, researchers looked at what happens during 72 hours of intense sleep deprivation. When these operators were given repeated, controlled doses of around 200 milligrams of caffeine, rather than just one massive dose all at once, they maintained extreme vigilance. Their reaction time stayed sharp, they sustained their marksmanship accuracy in live-fire simulations, and their logical reasoning speed was completely protected. Even when their physical bodies were entirely exhausted, caffeine literally kept the lights on in their brain.
But, and this is a massive but, the researchers from the International Society of Sports Nutrition issue a very serious reality check here. It's perfectly summarized by this quote: "You cannot out-caffeinate poor sleep." While caffeine is this uniquely powerful cognitive tool, remember, it only masks the neurochemical signals of fatigue. It can never replace actual physiological recovery, tissue repair, or that deep neurological reset that only comes from genuine rest.
Which brings us to Section 4, Mastery. Dosing, timing, and the trade-offs.
So, armed with all this knowledge, the brain hacking, the genetics, the cognitive benefits, how do we actually put this to use to optimize our daily routines? Well, the absolute most crucial piece of the puzzle is dosing. You definitely do not need 1,000 milligrams of caffeine to see incredible results. In fact, the International Society of Sports Nutrition officially concludes that 3 to 6 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram of body mass is the golden zone. This is the precise sweet spot where athletes consistently hit those performance-enhancing benefits. Drop below this and you probably won't even feel it. Go above 9 milligrams per kilo and actually scratch that, you don't get any extra performance boost. You just dramatically increase the risk of severe side effects like a racing heart and extreme anxiety.
Okay, next up is timing, which honestly is just as critical as the dose itself. Let's walk through the biological timeline of your standard caffeine capsule or a cup of coffee. At minute 0, you ingest it. By minute 30, it's finally clearing your gut and your blood levels are just starting to rise. But it isn't until minute 60 that you hit what scientists call your peak plasma concentration. This is the golden 60-minute rule. You want to time your ingestion so that this absolute biological peak aligns perfectly with the very start of your workout, your race, or whatever high-stakes cognitive task you're tackling.
But hey, what if you don't have 60 minutes? What if you're a soldier stepping out on a mission right now, or an athlete getting subbed into the final minutes of a grueling match? Let's compare traditional capsules to caffeinated chewing gum. Gum relies on something called buccal absorption. That means the caffeine is absorbed incredibly fast right through the highly vascularized tissues in your cheeks, completely bypassing the slow, tedious digestive process of the gut. It's a vastly superior tactical choice when you are desperate for an immediate physical or cognitive hit.
And that brings us to the ultimate question. We've just seen that caffeine isn't just some magic energy dust. It's a highly specific central nervous system antagonist, and its true effectiveness is dictated by your genetics, your specific dosing strategy, and your precise timing. So let me ask you, is your current pre-workout ritual actually matched to your unique DNA and the biological clock? Or are you just kind of guessing, hoping for the best, and potentially leaving massive performance gains completely on the table? It might just be time to rethink your routine. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.